Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
No, I thought he died.
You guys believe in Jesus Christ? You guys believe in Jesus Christ?
So, I mean, who knows? This guy might be in a place where there are a lot of Jewish people. But I can tell you, in my encounters working in the secular world, I don't think a lot of people believe in the true Jesus Christ. They have a made-up version of Jesus Christ. Welcome to the Father Leo Show, where I'm dishing out faith, culture, and commentary. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the real meaning of Easter through the lens of the one true holy Catholic Apostolic Church, because there's a lot of confusion, and we're going to jump right into it. But first, I want to thank you and wish you all a happy Easter. Thank you for being a part of our show and our movement, which really is trying to provide true Catholic teaching without getting into all of the emotional debates that can kind of divide us, and then try to point a direction on how we can live our Catholic faith in the midst of all of the things that we're going to encounter in this world. So please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment, and let family and friends know about the show. Hopefully it's helpful to you. And if it is, and you're enjoying the content, make sure that you support us on our Patreon community so that we can offer to you not only ongoing content and some amazing perks, but you really are going to be part of a movement that is truly kind of making connections to faith, culture, and commentary. So here are my thoughts. Well, actually, here's the Catholic Church's teaching on what the resurrection really means. When we talk about Jesus Christ and faith in the resurrection, a lot of people have no idea what it really means. You know, a resurrected body coming out of the grave is the stuff of horror films. And unfortunately, we have kind of made the resurrection of the body something that we don't really understand or relate to. But we have to remember that the resurrection of the body itself also means that the body actually has a soul, and that the body isn't just simply returning to what it experienced, but experiencing something completely new. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of a video that will share with you some good, authentic Catholic teaching on the resurrection. Check this out.
Okay. I cannot stress this enough. When we talk about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, we have to make absolutely sure that we know what we're speaking about. And there's lots of confusion about what we mean by the resurrection of Jesus. And all of that can be cleared up if we focused on that word right there. They did not find the body. The Greek word there is soma, right? And when it's talking about a dead body, it means a corpse, right? So when we talk about the resurrection of Jesus, the discovery of the empty tomb, the fact that there's no corpse in the tomb, is a crucial element for understanding what the first Christians would have meant by resurrection. So there are a few false ideas of resurrection out there that we need to make sure we aren't thinking about when we proclaim this truth. So for example, number one, in first century Judaism, resurrection did not mean a simple return to ordinary life, right? It's not just a resuscitation, even a miraculous resuscitation. We see examples of that elsewhere in the Bible. Jesus brings Jairus' daughter back to life. Jesus brings Lazarus back to life. We even see people raised from the dead in the Old Testament, like when the man touches the bones of Elisha. But in every one of those cases, although the language of being raised up could be used to describe it, there is a fundamental difference between what happened to Jairus' daughter or Lazarus and what happens to Jesus.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. You see, a lot of people don't fully understand the import, the incredible, unique change that occurred when Jesus rose from the dead. In the cases that this professor talks about, it's Jesus resuscitated people and they came back to life, and it was truly miraculous and something to celebrate, but they just simply returned to their old way of living. You know, the daughter gets up and she does her thing. And Lazarus gets up and he lives with Martha and Mary. In Jesus' case, though, he doesn't return the same way. He comes back in a new way. You see, Lazarus will eventually die. In fact, we know he will be killed because they didn't want proof that Jesus actually rose from the dead. Jairus' daughter will eventually get sick again, and she will die, perhaps from sickness or just old age. But in this reality, what we have to remember is that when Jesus comes back to life, He is 100% different. And it's another kind of challenging thing is that a lot of people think that when you come back to life, it's something to be afraid of because that's the stuff of horror films and zombies. But remember that a zombie doesn't have a soul. And so in the resurrection, the soul, in a sense, manifests itself in our bodies. You know, I mean, because like right now, as we are talking and living, my body is, in a sense, overtaking my soul. You can't really see my soul. In the resurrection, the soul becomes very apparent and it allows the body to be what it really is supposed to be, glorified. And so this is something unique. It's not things that people claim is just coming from a pagan understanding of new life, because the culture has taken good Catholic theology of the resurrection and turned it into something commercial. And let's just say one more thing about the Catholic understanding of the resurrection. It is something to celebrate, but we've got to be careful in how we celebrate it, because if it is celebrated in a silly way, then we're really rooted in our bodies and we're forgetting the perpetual eternity of our soul. So let's take a look now, and I'm going to offer you some commentary on how the culture understands or at least celebrates Easter. Because guess what? In my commentary, I want to kind of teach you or share with you a true, authentic way that Catholics can celebrate Easter. But first, let's take a look at what culture does to celebrate Easter. And it'll leave you wondering, what do they even believe? The culture's understanding of Easter is, at best, confused. You know, Easter is one thing, and then you take a look at how other languages celebrate Easter. They would call it Pascua or Pasch, because it comes from the Jewish understanding of Passover. You know, when the Egyptians had to let the Jewish people go because the Jewish people made the sacrifice of a male unblemished goat. They would pour blood over their doorposts and the angel of death would pass by. Eventually, the Jewish people would walk through the Red Sea and it would open up and it would split in two. This is a symbol of baptism from death into life. There is so much theology that we forget that Easter ain't about bunnies. But how does even bunnies come into play? Well, it actually comes from this understanding of Ostre, or Ostere, who was a goddess of fertility and new life. And apparently this goddess turned herself into a bird, which eventually turned herself into a rabbit, and the rabbit still had the properties of laying eggs like a bird, but these weren't like ordinary eggs. These were colorful and beautiful, and so you can see how this is kind of turning into these from former pagan understanding of new life and spring to how we celebrate it now, where an Easter bunny lays eggs. And why? Because it was once a bird. But I got to tell you, if an Easter bunny comes around and drops off some little gifts that look like eggs or chocolate, I wouldn't eat it. Okay, I'm just saying that right now. I think what we've got to do though is make a deeper connection to why, for example, this is connected to Easter. Well, let's be very clear that we have these phrases about, you know, the fertility and the ability for a rabbit to multiply. And so the fecundity, which means the fertility of a rabbit, some people thought was really because rabbits were able to reproduce on their own. They were so fertile that they can just make rabbits on their own. And so these are pointing to, you know, a false understanding of what a rabbit can do, but it pointed to kind of like this miraculous new life and how the church can produce new life. Now, does this make it bad because it was rooted in pagan traditions? No, not really, because Christ will come and he will baptize these things, so to speak, that Christ gives these pagan understandings a new understanding. as he gave meaning to the old covenant, he gives us now a new covenant. Christ makes all things new. But I think what we've got to do is return to what we actually believe about the resurrection so that we don't enter into some of the silliness that I've experienced and viewed and how people are basically secularizing our Catholic traditions, including this one right here, where I just look at this and I wonder what in God's name is going on in people's minds. This comes from Transformation Church and how they want to celebrate Easter. Not happy about this one.
Ransom is an hour-long high-production play put on by Transformation Church, led by Pastor Mike Todd. The show aims to retell the story of God rescuing mankind, but it has been criticized for being a little too worldly. Let's take a closer look at what's causing the controversy.
Okay, I think I've seen enough of all of this kind of stuff. It's for me, when I look at this, this is Transformational Church's worship celebration of Easter. And so it looks more of like, obviously, a concert, a hip-hop kind of celebration. And this is not a commentary on hip-hop, okay? I mean, it's got its own issues and it's got some of unique positive qualities. But when you kind of mix this kind of stuff with ancient traditions of Christianity, it diminishes the true importance, and we're more caught up in the performance, and we kind of forget that a dead man he rose from the dead, and it trivializes it. So something like this, not so much into, to be honest with you. But I can also say that the silliness continues, because if they are excited, this is unfortunately how some churches approach it. Well, kind of to each his own. I'm not here to judge the church. I'm here to make kind of observations and realize that, again, this is a manifestation of how culture has influenced our Catholic way of praying and of understanding. Now, some people might actually say the same thing about the excitement that more ancient churches have in regards to celebrating Easter, especially in the Holy Land. This is how our Orthodox brothers and sisters approach Easter, and particularly the light of Christ. Check this out.
A roar mixed with joy and tears welcomes the light coming out of the Holy Sepulchre. In a few minutes it spreads throughout the basilica, from the candles of the Greek patriarch, from the side windows of the wayside shrine, the miracle of fire, gift from the risen Christ.
Unbelievable, the best feeling ever. Christ is risen. He's truly risen.
Yes, Christ is truly risen, and so there is an excitement that we have to have, and there is a joy that we must possess because Christ has conquered even death itself. So theologically, we know what the Catholic Church teaches. Resurrection is way more than what the world understands it to be. So I guess the big question is, how do you exactly understand Easter, and how do we live it without entering into silliness and making sure that faith is not about an emotional feeling? Because I can tell you that there are many people who will come to Easter Sunday masses and they're not going to feel anything. They're just going to be happy that Lent is over. And so let's go into a commentary on how Catholics can approach Easter, especially in a world that seems to not really like Christians much at all. But we've got a job, and that is to not only die with Christ, but to live with Christ. So here's my commentary on Catholics and how we celebrate Easter. Let's just simply say that whenever we consider Easter, it's really rooted in the person of Jesus Christ and how he, one man, changes the world. But it begins with changing ourselves. And in our modern world, there doesn't seem to be a desire to change for the better. This little clip demonstrates not only people's confusion about what Christians believe about Jesus, but also what the world thinks about Christians in general. And it's really quite sad. Check this out.
If the world hates you, just remember that it has hated me first.
It is very true that the world doesn't only understand Christians, it's almost as if the world hates Christians and almost turns against Christ. It is even more sad that when people approach Easter in a worldly way, they just think it's now a time to celebrate because not only is Lent over, we get a chance to eat all the things that we gave up for Lent. Now, granted, I certainly enjoy now, I'm going to enjoy the bacon, the chocolate, the extra little things that I kind of gave up and all these things. Granted, Lent is over and we're happy. But if that's it, then we really are shallow people. And in the shallowness of our life, we can actually be so overwhelmed by the world that it'll be easy to kind of abandon our faith because the world doesn't like us. And I know that this sounds kind of silly, but guess what? For the first Christians, Easter did not mean a time for them just to simply get dressed up in bright colors and go Easter egg hunting and then eat the things that they gave up. No. For the first Easter, the Christians began to experience persecution. Easter, for the earliest Christians, began the era of martyrdom. 300 years of killing Christians simply because they believed that Jesus rose from the dead. So I want to just encourage people to know that Easter needs to be taken a lot more seriously. Because if we don't take Jesus Christ seriously, then we're going to fall easily away from Christianity because the world wants to overwhelm you. And by the way, it was the world, not just the Jews and not just the Romans. It was the ambivalence of people, including the disciples who abandoned Jesus. It's the reason why he was crucified and he died. But again, Jesus, that's not the end of the story for him. But I want to play this clip because it really saddens me, because this is kind of where we are in our replacement of Christian authentic teaching about Easter and replacing it with, Easter bunnies and having these debates that we shouldn't even celebrate Easter because it was rooted in pagan traditions. All that stuff is just so ridiculous. Remember, Christ makes all things new, including pagan traditions, giving new meaning to those pagan traditions. And if we don't take Jesus Christ seriously, we're going to be overwhelmed and discouraged and perhaps even abandon our faith. And this is an example of it.
Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
No, I thought he died.
You guys believe in Jesus Christ? You guys believe in Jesus Christ? Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
Nope, you know, I cut it a long time ago.
Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
Nope.
Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
No.
You guys believe in Jesus Christ? Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
Nope.
Do you guys believe in Jesus Christ?
Oh, no.
Do you guys believe in Jesus Christ? You believe in Jesus Christ? Do you believe in Jesus Christ? You guys believe in Jesus Christ?
So, I mean, who knows? This guy might be in a place where there are a lot of Jewish people. It could be that. And so this is kind of setting them up to all say no. But I can tell you, in my encounters working in the secular world, I don't think a lot of people believe in the true Jesus Christ. They have a made-up version of Jesus Christ. It's clear from how the world celebrates Christmas and how the world celebrates Easter. And in our experience of faith, I think it's important for us to ask ourselves the deeper question: why are we able to celebrate this day? Why? What's the reason for our joy? And I got to tell you, like, even as a Catholic priest, I will be happy to see everyone at church. I will be excited to welcome new members into the Catholic faith. I will be excited to say that not only is Lent over, but we can have a time of true celebration. And so it's very easy for the worldly things to take over. But remember that Easter is about the salvation of souls, so that our souls can, in a sense, overwhelm our bodies and give our bodies new meaning, new purpose. In fact, even a new look, as Christ showed at his resurrection, where he was not recognized immediately. Because remember, the resurrection isn't about being resuscitated and returning to our old way of life. No, because that life is going to die. But a resurrected body lives forever. I'm going to kind of end with this little joke here that people say that the age of 33, the body that you had when you were 33 years old, is going to be the body that you are going to have in the resurrection in heaven. So when I was 32, I did push-ups and sit-ups every day because I want to make sure that the body looked good. Now, that's just a joke, right? But it's kind of a worldly way of approaching what the resurrection is. And we have to remember that as much as I wanted to work on making sure that my body was physically fit, I've got to ask, are we doing the same thing for our souls? Are we trying to strengthen our spirit in Christ? Because eventually we're going to die. Every one of us is going to die. But are you afraid to die in Christ? No, people will be like, no, if I'm going to die in Christ, that'll be awesome. Easter makes us ask a more challenging question. Are you willing to live through, with, and in Jesus Christ? So today, focus on Christ. Yes, get involved in the pageantry, the drama, the aesthetics, the beauty of the church's liturgy, from the lighting of the fire and getting excited about that, to the solemnity of chanting the Exsultet before the Easter Vigil. Get excited about the symbolism of the candle being plunged into the holy water font so as to kind of give new life, in a sense. Yeah, these are very intimate, sensual, not sexual in a negative way, but very sensual, tactile experiences of our liturgy to point to the fact that our bodies do matter. And get excited about welcoming new people into the church, please. Get excited about all these things. But I think what we've got to do is enter into a serene, contemplative, deeper relationship, a conversation with Jesus. Say, Jesus, what does this Easter now mean for me? How am I going to try and live a new life? And guess what? This ain't going to be easy. In fact, Easter means that we now will pick up our cross and follow him, just like the earliest Christians have done. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching the show. I hope that this gives you something to meditate upon, something to think about, something to theologically chew on about the resurrection, because it is something that this world has never known until Jesus Christ, who has risen. Indeed, he has truly risen. Alleluia, alleluia. God bless you. Thanks for sharing this show with others, liking, subscribing, commenting. You know, tell me how you're going to celebrate Easter. And also, Be sure to support us on Patreon so that in our community we can provide you some amazing content and some great perks, and we can continue to dish out faith, culture, and commentary. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in how you can continue to celebrate Easter, we've got a great video series that you can get. If you're a Patreon member, you're going to get access to it for free, but it's called Easter to be continued. So guess what? Keep the celebration going, but rooted in the resurrected body of Jesus Christ. God bless you, and stay hungry for God.